Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Going to be talking about 49ers versus Bucks upon further review. I still want to go through exactly how the team played against a tough opponent in Tampa Bay. And I got to give credit to Todd Bowles. I got to give credit to Baker Mayfield. They did a good job in this game. Baker making things happen, creating. Todd Bowles, confusing Mac Jones on occasion. Really showing pressure, but really not bringing that much pressure. But it felt like he was bringing pressure because you just never quite knew who was coming, which generated free pass rushers. The very first, the interception to start the game, it started because the 49ers offensive line was confused, and that falls upon Jake Brendel. Jake Brendel was confused about who was coming. They were showing two blitzers to his left side, and those guys both backed out, and they brought pressure from the other side with the linebacker Dennis, and that engaged Colt McKivitz to go inside. That's his responsibility. You always take the inside man on pass protection, and that left Hassan Reddick to come free from the outside. Mac Jones saw that. It sped up his process. He got rid of the football, expecting Kendrick Bourne to be there. Boom, interception, right? So this is a complicated breakdown, a complicated look at what was going on in this game. And I think that this game, once you got to the Fred Warner injury, it definitely kind of changed everyone's thought process on the game. But there's a lot to learn from what happened to the 49ers, how Tampa Bay played them, because make no mistake, this is a copycat league, and teams are going to try to do the same things that Tampa Bay did. And what had been a norm for the 49ers as far as defensive line was facing a lot of double teams. Well, guess what? Tampa Bay singled up a lot of times. They just were able to get pushed one-on-one. That's not the norm against the 49ers. And because of that, linebackers were getting bodied. They were getting those other offensive linemen, tight ends, and everybody onto the second level. And that's not where the 49ers have success. The 49ers linebackers are not built to shed and tackle. They're built to run and avoid. That's why you see somebody like D. Winter's PFF grade look so bad in run defenses, because that's not his game. If you keep players off of him, if you keep offensive linemen from getting to him, and you occupy blockers with your front, he's going to be dynamic. He's a run and tackle linebacker, so he can handle that. Fred Warner's the one guy that can do it all. He can shed, he can run, he can avoid. He'd prefer avoidance. He'd prefer people keep him clean, right? But right now, you're not going to have that with Tatum Bethune and with D. Winters, and Winters especially. Bethune a little bit bigger up top, a little bit stronger, a little bit better when it comes to shedding blocks, but still, that's the type of thing that's going on. So when you look at like PFF grades and you see a bad run grade for D. Winters, there's a reason why. It's more complicated than just D. Winters didn't play good. It's because of the way that the Tampa Bay offense was being able to manhandle some of the 49ers defensive linemen. I say some. It wasn't everybody got manhandled, but some of them, they were able to create some opportunities to get out on that second level. And that's why you've seen some gashing runs, especially early on in this football game for the 49ers. So what we're going to do is I've started my breakdowns over on Patreon. 2 of those are already out. I've went through the whole game film, and I've gotten some keynotes, some coaching points, that I want to talk about, some players that I want to discuss about what happened in this game. And we're just going to go through it, and we're going to just look at it, what happened, what the 49ers need to do to recover, to go ahead and fix some of these issues or continue to get better. And we're going to evaluate where they're at and where they got to go forward, because they got a tough game against Atlanta on Sunday at home. So it's going to be a fun one. Buckle up. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk all about 49ers players, how they performed, what they need to do to get better, and what happened against Tampa Bay that caused the 49ers to lose. And we know that injuries are a big part of it, but there were other circumstances as well. And I think that was clear by some of the breakdowns and coverage and things like that, the interceptions. We're going to talk about all that. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to go ahead and start on defense because I thought that, Tatum Bethune after the game was definitely catching some heat for how he played. And so I really wanted to evaluate how Tatum Bethune played. Because if you just look at his stats, you're going to say to yourself, well, actually, Tatum Bethune showed up. He had 10 tackles, 5 solo tackles. He was pretty good when it came to run defense. And ultimately, that's what you're hoping you're going to get from a backup guy who's stepping in, at the last minute. Like, he's got to step in and he's got to be able to make some plays. And it was tough. Tatum Bethune was the highest graded run defender. He had a 75.1 mark. And so that is good. In his 23 run defensive snaps, he played well. And when he came to run defense, Kalia Davis did good. I got to say, Kalia Davis, before I go back to Tatum Bethune, Kalia Davis played remarkably well, even though he only had one hand. He was the havoc defender for the 49ers. He was getting in there. He was getting upfield, and he was generating pressure, whether it was against the run or against the pass. He was doing a good job, and that was remarkable because, number one, he had one hand, but number two, there was no real expectations he was going to be playing. So he's continued to really come on. So I thought that I wanted to give him some respect. He played well. Bryce Huff also graded pretty well as well, over a 70 grade when it came to run defense. And as I mentioned earlier, D. Winters was the one that struggled. But Tatum Bethune is... One thing about Tatum Bethune is his skills definitely lend towards run stopping. He's a better run stop linebacker than he is a pass coverage linebacker. And there were some errors in his zone drops and things like that you kind of expect when watching Tatum Bethune. That's one of his issues is he somewhat struggles when he's in his drops and in coverage and zone and his feel. He's just not built for being a coverage linebacker. Now, he has improved a lot since last year, a lot. He's a more complete linebacker than he, was in the past. But even though he was good when it came to stopping the run, he's a very good tackler. He brings the wood. He hits really hard. I did notice that he was a little slow to pull the trigger in this game. Now, was that he was not as comfortable with the reads he was looking at? Was he trying to make sure he wasn't making a mistake? I'm not really sure. The one thing I do know is that he was a little slow. And so what I say is, why I'm saying that is a lot of times when you're reading the run play, you take your read step, and by the time you're done with your read step, you need to have deciphered if this is a run play or if this is a pass play. If it's a pass play, you're going to get into your drop and get into your zone, into the right spot, or if you're in man coverage, you're going to pick up your man. If it's a run play, you've got to go downhill. And what that means by going downhill is you've got to be moving now the direction you're supposed to go, and you're supposed to be moving towards the line of scrimmage. Now, the problem for Tatum Bethune is he wasn't reading a short story. He was reading a novel in this one. There were times that there were some easy reads, offensive lineman pulling, and he was a little slow to read it, which allowed him to be blocked by offensive linemen. Now, I put a lot of that into you got thrusted into a game. You weren't expecting to go in for Fred Warner. You probably weren't expecting to play very much in this game. Maybe that slowed you down. Number two, maybe you just weren't quite comfortable in this one. And now that you have an opportunity to play against the Falcons, you'll be more prepared. You'll be more ready to pull the trigger and go downhill. It will be a different style offense. So maybe that plays into it. But make no mistakes, you can't be slow when you go against Bijan Robinson next week. You can't be slow against that Atlanta Falcons offense. So I think that when you're talking about Tatum Bethune, it was a good performance. It definitely wasn't a great performance, but there's some optimism there. there's an opportunity for him to show that he can play, at this level. Now, I would love Tatum Bethune more as a Sam linebacker than a Mike linebacker, but I do think that he could be a good run stopper. Now, my question marks about him, I think are more so when it comes to third down. And I don't know exactly what the 49ers decide to do. They left him out on the field a lot of times on third down. That's what they did with Fred Warner, because Fred Warner and D. Winters were your two best coverage linebackers, and it wasn't close. Now, could we see the 49ers, when they get to third down, potentially take Tatum Bethune off the field? Now, one thing Tatum Bethune did well was rush the passer. He had 2 pass rush opportunities, and he graded out well in both of those. So if you're going to keep him on the field, maybe you simulate pressure with him and bring him. Maybe you don't. Maybe you put somebody else out there. Now that Nick Martin will presumably be active, maybe you put Nick Martin out there in some of those situations where he's super athletic and he's got even more speed to bring pressure if you're going to go ahead and blitz. But I think there's a chance we could see Curtis Robinson in some situations in third down and long, or third down and 7, 8, because he's better in coverage. He's played the Mike linebacker before, and you might go with a 2 linebacker system at Mike. Tatum Bethune playing the run, playing short yardage on third down, and maybe getting Curtis Robinson to play your 3rd and 6 through your 3rd and 12s, kind of in that range where he can help in coverage. And then you get, D. Winter still out there, a better coverage linebacker type look. I say 3rd and 6 because you don't want them to try to run, but Curtis Robinson could do it. But I think that maybe now that they get comfortable, right now they have time to deal with what they have as far as linebacker. Now they can start playing with that. So I didn't think it was a bad performance by Tatum Bethune. I thought he played pretty good. I thought that there was like I said, a little bit of a slow read to his game, and I do worry about him in coverage. A couple times Emeka Egbuka got wide open because he did get a little bit of a wrong drop. There's one time he goes in motion and then drops directly and pulls all of his attention the other direction when he was supposed to get a straight drop and sit right in the middle of the field and take away Emeka Egbuka. So there's things like that, and some of it will probably get better with a week of preparation, but you'd like your guys to be prepared right away. So that was something I noticed about Tatum Bethune. There was good and there was bad. Now I want to talk about Upton Stout, Renardo Green, and Diamond Lenore, because I thought that there were confusions several times in coverage. And I know that Tony Romo was putting a emphasis on this is because of Fred Warner. And I do believe that there's a big part of it that is because of Fred Warner, because this defense has been very reliant on Fred Warner and in the past Talanoa Hufanga to recognize what's coming and tell them. And that gives you a distinct advantage, right? And Fred was a complete coach on the field. He knew this defense inside and out. He would be prepared for every single offense, what they did, their calls. I mean, he was a coach on the field. But there were some elementary mistakes as well, even with Fred wasn't out there. I'll give you an example. So the 49ers have a situation where there's, on the left side of their defense, they have D. Winters and Diamond Lenore on the outside. D. Winters is matched up on Rachaad White, and you've got Diamond Lenore matched up on Cade Otton. Now, they send a player in motion, and the player in motion, once he gets outside of the offensive tackle, there needs to be an adjustment. And he gets outside of Cade Otton, it should be Diamond Lenore bump out. You get D. Winters covering Cade Otton, and then Bryce Huff drops out and covers Rachaad White. Some of this stuff doesn't happen. And this is why I say some of this is elementary. This is stuff you start learning, when you play football down at the lowest levels. It's just a little bit of confusion. And I think that this is just, they're not as comfortable in these situations. They're used to somebody telling them, but now they've got to kind of think about it. But Tampa Bay was doing a good job of kind of confusing them. And so you had this instance where Diamond Lenore should have went and jumped onto the motion receiver on the outside. It ends up being a touchdown, right? He's wide open down the sideline, complete breakdown. Lenore should have went there. D. Winter should have went on Cade Otton. And then Rachaad White is covered by Bryce Huff. Only one of those things happened. Bryce Huff covered Rachaad White out in the flat. He did. But Diamond Lenore stayed with Cade Otton, and D. Winter started to jump out and then went to Rachaad White instead of covering the receiver. The problem is Upton Stout's coming on a blitz from the backside. if either one of those guys even just run with them and make it a tough throw, either Baker Mayfield holds on the ball long enough to get sacked, or you get a potential play on the football. So you were seeing some things like that. I also seen Upton Stout, them motioning away. They were taking advantage of motioning away and then going after Luke Gifford. Then they all of a sudden started motioning away. They would get Upton Stout comfortable in his drop, and then they would hit somebody in the flat. I don't know what he was looking at. So we're still getting some dirty eyes from the 49ers secondary where they're looking in the backfield, they're peeking. Baker Mayfield's one of the better. Him and Matthew Stafford especially are two of the better, look somebody off, look down the middle of the field, stare down the barrel, and then come to where they want to go because they know who's going to be where, and they can kind of see the whole field with peripheral. And I thought that it was getting Upton Stout a little bit. And we were just seeing mistakes like that were producing wide open. And it wasn't just the defensive backs. I brought up D. Winters, Tatum Bethune getting in the wrong drop. We seen the safety Marquise Siegel sit flat-footed as they got Tez Johnson down the field. So it was a consistency amongst multiple players. And if we want to say it was Fred Warner, it could have been. I'm not 100% sure. One thing I know is this kind of stuff, this can't happen. These guys got to think on their feet. They've got to communicate, they've got to talk, and they've got to understand what the rules are to the defense. Every single defense has rules. And that's why offenses always try to break the defense's rules to get explosive plays. And I thought that it was entirely too easy for Grizzard and the offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get the 49ers to go outside their rules. And there was really no reason for half of it. Some of this was stuff they should have been all over. So I thought that was a mistake. That's a part of the breakdowns in coverage is the not really going with the rules and then breaking it down the way you're supposed to. It was a problem for the 49ers, especially Upton Stout. I've seen it happen to Renardo Green. Man coverage. They got trips bunch out to the left side. You got man coverage. Upton Stout goes with his man. Marquise Siegel goes with his man. And Renardo Green runs with Upton Stout's man, leaving Emeka Egbuka wide open over the middle of the field. You'll probably remember the play because Emeka Egbuka had the ball thrown behind him and it was dropped. I think they were so shocked he was wide open. But those were the kind of things that were going on in the game. And I'm not sure why. I mean, once you figured out it's man coverage, Upton Stout was lined up as the closest man, and he took his guy. Marquise Siegel took the tight end. Egbuka was outside, the furthest outside with Renardo Green. Renardo Green should have picked him up. So those types of things, that's not on Fred Warner, right? Like the man coverage stuff, that's completely on the player. And those are the type of things that they can't happen. They just can't happen. That's just lack of focus, lack of understanding your responsibility in the moment. There's no reason for that. Man coverage can't get confused, right? You can get picked, you can get rubbed. They can make it so it's difficult on you, but just not going to the right guy, like that can't happen. And so I thought we saw some of that. They looked out of sorts at times in situations they really shouldn't have. And could it have been the emotional letdown of not having Fred Warner, or just so used to having the consistency of Fred Warner telling them what to do? Absolutely, it could have been. But I thought that was, a real problem in this football game was just some of the breakdowns when it came to coverage. And, I thought that they were trying to work in Jair Brown. Jair Brown got a start, which I thought was entirely interesting. And, I had some thoughts on him as far as, I was a little bit critical on some of the things that he did, even though he earned the best coverage grade at 64.5. That's probably why they had them in the game. That's not where my criticisms really lie. My criticisms lie more when it comes to tackling, run stopping. I think there's too many occasions where you see Jair Brown has an angle on the play and he runs up and instead of taking on the player, kind of rolls around and then tries to tackle him around somebody else or come through and try to punch the ball. It's not like Marquise Siegel, where Siegel flies and he goes and he makes the tackle directly, or Upton Stout, who does the same thing, or we've seen Malik Mustafa do that as well. But it was a tough day for Malik Mustafa overall. He didn't play a lot of snaps. He played 21 snaps as they were trying to work him back in, which, that's exactly what they should do. He had a 43.1 grade in this game. I think a big reason why he had a 40 or 43.1 was there were some missed tackles, and Malik is known to do this, but it just looked like he wasn't 100% back yet, right? He was getting his feels, getting his legs underneath him. So after seeing him, you definitely understood why Robert Saleh and the 49ers defense decided to ease him back in. We did not see any Jason Pennick, which I thought was interesting because I thought that he's been a pretty consistent player so far. But we see Malik, pulling the trigger and flying up, but not quite finishing on the tackles. Marquis Siegel is the 49ers' best safety right now when it comes to tackling. Jair Brown is covering better than Marquis Siegel, but Marquis Siegel is the best tackling one. So the frustrations for Jair Brown are in the tackling. It's in the run stopping, where he comes up and he doesn't make a whole lot of plays. He'll make them from time to time. Siegel's is more so, that big hole shot again, where he got beat. He just didn't read it, and unfortunately, he sat flat-footed and got beat for the touchdown by Tez Johnson. So you're getting some inconsistencies. You expected a little bit, right, from your young guys. We knew we were going to have mistakes by Upton Stout and by Marquis Siegel. Even Renardo Green is still young, but some of them you can't excuse. A man coverage breakdown by Renardo Green, that can't be excused. D. Winters and Diamond Lenore, they've got to understand what happens in coverage. Bryce Huff did his job. So there's some of that right now. 49ers are going to have to clear this thing up. They're going to have some conversations. They're going to have some real talks during their meetings, and I'm sure they did on Tell the Truth Monday, and I'm sure that they've got this thing figured out. Now, I'm going to be flipping over to the offensive side of the ball to talk a lot about the offense, and I know that the defensive line is a question mark, and I will say this about the defensive line. They did not generate pressure in this game. There were moments where they were able to do it, but I would not say this was a good game for the 49ers defense. Offensive lines are paying attention to Bryce Huff. Robert Saleh tried to find all kinds of ways to bring pressure. When he did, it was mixed results, but I thought that it was good by him. But we're going to flip it to the offense. But before I do, I'm going to say, if you're going to bet with FanDuel. Right now, the 49ers are favored at 2.5 points. And, of course, this number dropped from 3 to 2.5 after the Falcons defeated the Buffalo Bills last night. And with Michael Penix and the way that so was looking and the way that they were able to get after Josh Allen, they blitzed him more than any other team has ever blitzed Josh Allen, just so you know. So depending on who plays quarterback, it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about Mac in a second. But the money line is plus 110 on the Atlanta Falcons, and the over-under is 47.5. So if you're going to bet with FanDuel. But let's get back to the breakdown, because I want to talk about Mac Jones. And I want to preface this as saying that I believe Mac Jones has done a very good job. And I have been a stark supporter of Mac Jones and what he's been able to do. And I thought that Todd Bowles did a really good job in this game of confusing Mac Jones. I thought that Mac Jones had a couple of instances where he really got confused by what Todd Bowles was doing and missed open receivers. And there are missed open touchdowns and opportunities to score. That is for sure. And we see this every single week with every single quarterback. So I don't want to, make you guys think I'm being too hypercritical of Mac Jones. But there are times in this game where you see Mac Jones could have went one way and got the first down, and he's confused by the coverage. And I think one of the simplest ways to look at it is the last interception that Mac Jones sees. He's expecting it to be a cover two. And that's why everybody says he had Jake Tunges underneath. So he's expecting that to be a cover two. That's why he's trying to throw it into the tight window over the top. Now, you get the guy that sags off, makes the interception underneath, and Jake Tunges is sitting there. And everyone says, and me included, throw it underneath. At least that's the safer of the two throws with the spacing that you have. There's other situations like that. You look at the Marquez Valdes-Scantling throw. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling's along the sideline. He catches it in double coverage, and then, the ball hits the ground as he's going out, and it's an incomplete pass. Jawan Jennings absolutely routes his guy and gets underneath, but Mac Jones thought that corner was going to drop off on Jawan Jennings. He was going to throw to the open window where Scantling was in front of the safety. They were going to get a completion. The problem was he misread the coverage. The corner kept running with Valdes-Scantling, and Jawan Jennings is the read, and he's wide open for a first down and continuation of that drive. And you saw that from time to time. Todd Bowles does a good job of showing you something pre-snap and adjusting post-snap. And they were adjusting really well. And I know the 49ers were playing on the road, but the 49ers didn't have any spoof counts or anything like that. So as soon as you seen Dominic Pooney tap Jake Brendel, Jake Brendel's head would go down. And then as soon as it was almost on its way, as soon as it went down and it was starting on its way up, they were already moving into their coverage. So there were keys. There are things to read that dictate what you think coverage-wise. But Mac Jones was definitely struggling with it a little bit. And I think he got a little bit gun-shy after the first interception. And like I mentioned before, this interception is not on Mac Jones, the first one. The second one, yes. The first one, I don't put it on him. So you've got a couple of situations that happen that cause that interception. Number one, Todd Bowles is showing pressure. He's showing a 7-man pressure. He's only going to bring 4, but he shows a 7-man pressure. And Jake Brendel thinks that the blitz is going to come from his left side. That's where Levante David is. That's where Yaya Diaby is. That's where their safety is as well. And he thinks the blitz is coming from that side. On the other side, you got the other linebacker, Dennis, and that's it. So he's worried about that. As the play happens, Colt McKivitz has to pick up Dennis, who's blitzing. Those other guys on the other side bailed. And so now you got two offensive linemen, Jake Brendel and Connor Kobe, who have 0 people to block. And on the other side, because Colt McKivitz had to come down and help, you had Dominic Pooney blocking someone. You have Colt McKivitz blocking someone. Now you've got a free rusher off the edge. So Mac Jones has to make a quick decision. It's 3rd down. I have to get rid of this football. And so you've got a situation where, once again, McCaffrey's on the outside. He's running a vertical route. He's running a stop and go. And you've got Kendrick Bourne, who's supposed to be running it out on the play. Now, they are running a cover 2, and the corner drops off. So you got the hook the curl guy on Kendrick Bourne. Bourne tries to run outside and then back in. Mac Jones throws it because that corner's coming off of that, reading Mac Jones, knowing the blitz is coming, knowing that there's a free rusher. He jumps on it. It's interception. It's not on Mac Jones. It's on Kendrick Bourne, and it's on the offensive line. And it's on Jake Brendel, even though Jake Brendel doesn't miss the block. Jake Brendel doesn't give up the sack, give up the pressure. 100% that's on him for not recognizing it. And it's tough. Todd Bowles is one of the best. But I thought that was a little bit of a problem, for the 49ers in this game, was offensive line. So I didn't think it was Mac Jones' best game. He missed Kendrick Bourne in the end zone for a touchdown. He missed Marquez Valdez-Scantling at the end of the first half for what, he threw it to DeMarcus Robinson. He throws it to Valdez-Scantling underneath, which they're both part of the concept. The 49ers got the ball at the 5-yard line with one more play potentially on offense, or Valdez-Scantling gets in. I mean, that's how close it was. So there were plenty of misses in this game, and I don't want to be too critical. He was under pressure constantly right up the middle. The 49ers interior offensive line struggled, and we talked about this before. Vita Vea was an absolute problem. It didn't matter who he lined up on. Dominic Pooney, Connor Kobe, Jake Brendel, they all ended up on their behinds because of Vita Vea. He was a monster again. And so that interior offensive line, there was some problems, And so it was just a little bit of an issue for them, and that put a lot of pressure on Mac Jones. But there were occasions where Mac Jones didn't have pressure, and he got a little, a little leery in the pocket and went ahead and escaped. And I get it. When you're getting pressure all the time, that can happen. But there were some some opportunities. And, like I said, he missed Kendrick Bourne on a touchdown. They had a 2-man game. He got the safety to move over here. The linebacker bit on Brian Robinson. Kendrick Bourne's running this slant. He's got a touchdown in the end zone. The defensive end with Jawan Jennings, it's wide open. I mean, this is how you draw it up. And he decided to roll out. He eventually threw some wicked pass to Brian Robinson that he got 2 yards. So that's the play I was talking about. Now, the 49ers run game, I thought, can continue to be 1 block away. Almost there. Some more explosives that were just missed. But I did think that, once again, you saw some plays coming from them. It was a little bit better. Christian McCaffrey, 17 for 56. They definitely ran more heavy boxes against the 49ers than I think that everyone was expecting. 8-man boxes. which, that hasn't been the norm, but they were really saying, Mac Jones, you're going to beat us. And they were really focused on getting it to third down and then simulating pressure, confusing pre-snap and post-snap looks for Mac Jones and thinking they could get off the field. I thought they did a good enough job. Mac was successful for the most part, but they did hold the 49ers under 20 points, so give them that. But I thought the run game was effective at times. It still needs to get more effective. I think George Kittle is going to make a big difference in that. Jake Tunges and Luke Farrell continue to struggle when it comes to run blocking. And so I think that's a real issue for the guys on the edge. The interior offensive line struggled with Vita Vea, but it wasn't just Vita Vea. The very first play of the game, there's a toss play. And on the inside, if Connor Kobe is able to hold up Hall for a half a second, Christian McCaffrey's one-on-one with Winfield, and he absolutely breaks an arm tackle and gets an explosive on play one. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, because Winfield ran past it, reached out with his arm, but Hall was there able to come back and help. So those are the types of things we're seeing in the run game. The explosives are close. Kyle Shanahan designs up some really cool counterplay, and then you get Dominic Pooney coming back to hit the defensive end, completely whiffs. Play gets blown up. Would have been another explosive. It's tough, but they're close. I think George Kittle is going to make a big difference now that he's going to be back. So that was upon further review, some of the coaching points. If you want me to talk about other players, let me know in the comment section down below. I appreciate you all watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.